Thing I try to teach people, the first thing you have to deal with if you're going to build a foundation is you got to start with a solid one. So you start with your character, right? So when you start talking about the past and how the past affects the future, that's a character issue. That's saying there's a part of your character that you didn't fix. Why? Because you're talking about the past. So if you're talking about the past, that means that there's something in your character you didn't do. Now here's what
Super excited to be selected to speak about our 5C's this year, and I was chosen to speak on character, which is our first C of our 5C's. I feel like it's perfectly represented as the number one piece of the 5C's. It should be the first C. Character to me is the foundation of anything that's going to be a success, right? If we don't have character, if teams don't have character, if people don't have character within our 5C's, that first one builds the rest. So if you don't have the first C, which is character, the culture is never going to build in. Commitment's tough to get, and then that obviously leads to the championships at the end. That's very tough to do if you don't have character in the first place. That foundation is built on, not only inheritance, which you'll see in a video from Inky Johnson, but you don't inherit character. Character is something that you can build daily. It's something that you can work on. It's not something you're like, well, I guess I'm a bad character individual and I'm stuck with it. No, like you go through adversity, you go through challenges, you go through triumphs. All those things are building whatever that character is going to be. And I think that's a really big piece of that. But the hardest part to me about making sure you build the character is noticing when you can build the character. If you just go through adversity and don't realize what you're going through to make changes and fix it, your character's never going to change. But if you notice when you're going through those things and you can look back and realize, okay, why did I go through these things? What could I have done differently? How can I fix it? I think that's how you ultimately build your character to make it better for the long run.
Character is not something we inherit, right? It's like that quote that says, I don't care how tall your daddy is, you got to do your own growing. My dad's 6'3", I'm 5'10". I didn't get it, right? But when I say I don't care how tall your daddy is, you got to do your own growing, character is not something we inherit. Character is something we got to wake up every single day, we got to fight, and we got to build it. In the midst of opposition, in the midst of adversity, in the midst of problems and challenges.
So character is, like we said, something that you can build yourself. However, character is also something that you need to just be okay with yourself. It's very different than reputation. John Wooden said it best. Character is way more important than your reputation, because character is who you truly are, and the reputation is just merely what others think you are, right? And I think that's a big piece. A mentor of mine, Bill Bree, who was a past athletic director of mine when I coached at the high school level, said it best, in my opinion. He said if you can end your day every day and put your head on the pillow knowing that you did things right that day, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Like if you feel good about how you acted, how you responded to situations, how you responded to people, your peers, your family, your whoever, I think you can be okay with that, and you can be content with what your character said that day, right? And at the end of the day, that's really it, because again, that goes back to the reputation piece. People might think you have poor character, but they may not know you. They don't know the true you. So as long as you're happy with what you're doing, and you can kind of look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, hey, you know what, I handled this situation the best I could, and I'm happy with how I handled it. It may not have worked the right way, but I'm happy with how I handled it, and I can go to sleep. And I think that's a big part of it. As coaches, as players, you go through those decisions almost daily, where it really puts you in a position where, all right, I got a tough decision to make, and as long as you can be, again, happy with it, again, the outcome may not be exactly what you were hoping for, but as long as you can be happy with the decision, I think you can live. It's one of those things that's tough at times to kind of swallow. It's a tough pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, when you look back on those decisions later, you can at least be happy with, you know what, I made the right decision, and I can feel good about it. And same thing goes, I think the other thing that you can talk about there is, coaches, players, anybody, that is in situations where you got to make quick decisions. It's really about making the right decision and not the most popular one. I think for players and the youth nowadays, they get so much pressure on, not necessarily just from social media, but just from their peers to make the popular decision. And that just can that doesn't lead to anything good. I think if you make the right decision, yeah, it may not be the most popular one at the time, but at the end of the day, you're trying to build your character for your future, not just making a decision for the present. And that kind of leads me to the next piece, which is about recruiting. Obviously, speaking on character and it being one of our 5C's and one of the most important C's, is the way we look at that is, how do you handle yourself in adversity? I think that's one of the main things that you hear when people talk about character is, character's built not through successes. I mean, yes, it can help, like those situations can help, but ultimately your character's built when you're putting through something that maybe is outside of your control and maybe something that you don't like. It's situations where, you thought things were going to go differently and they didn't, and you have to handle a situation that you weren't prepared for. That's where your character really shows. And to go back to the recruiting side of that, I think what we look for as coaches is exactly that. When we go recruit and go watch games, it's how you handle yourself when things aren't going your way. So what we look for a lot as a coaching staff is, when your coach takes you out after a bad play, what's your body language say, right? When you lose a close game, obviously, yes, you're going to be frustrated. We're not saying don't be sad and frustrated, but how are you handling yourself? Do you immediately go to social media and talk negatively about teammates or coaches or like that, or do you just say, hey, you know what, we're going to go get the next one, we're going to bounce back? And we look a lot at those things because that really is your true testament to who you are, and that's really who we're recruiting. I mean, we're recruiting you as a person, not necessarily you as a basketball player. So, think about that when you're doing those things. And everybody, it takes work. I mean, I know I'm very, very far from perfect. I have moments where it's the same thing, where you're just trying to figure out, all right, I didn't handle that right. But I think the most important thing to remember is you're not going to be perfect. You're going to have some situations that, through adversity, you're going to make a decision and you're going to, maybe think back on it like, yeah, that wasn't the best way to do it. But as we started, character is something that literally is being built every single day. So that's what you got to remember. Like, as long as you take those moments and learn from them and build, your character will be fine. It's if you let those negative moments, basically mean your character. So if you let those negative moments lead to who you're going to be, then that's where it's a problem. So as long as you just keep learning and growing and learning from your mistakes, your character will be fine. And that's why we think that's the first of the 5C's, because it does literally build you as a person for who you're going to be in the future, and as a student athlete, as a parent, whatever you go to next, it really does build who you're going to be and how you're going to how you're going to be in the world, how you're going to be in society, how you're going to be in your family, and your at your job, whatever that is. It plays a huge role in that.